you're still Econo Chat. Let's talk business with Mr. Daniel Steinman. To all the listeners that just tuned in, we have touched on the elections, and Mr. Daniel Steinman has given us some
food for thought.
Food for thought, actually, yeah. To look at the elections, but also give us hope that the next years will be okay for the young generation, the latest generation, but also when you see that they will be okay, the new generation will be okay.
We've got a fantastic future.
But in terms of them, like there's a whole bunch of the generation that says that education is not important anymore. How will this affect the country economically?
That silly girl. I can pull her ears or something. The thing is, you can only say that education is not important if your parents are well off, if you don't need to work for money. But if you need to work for money, like most of us, you must be well qualified. You must be able to do a specific job, and you must be able to do it well because you are compensated for that. If you come from a rich family and you don't need to work for money, obviously education will not be important to you. But I think to 80% of Namibians who are now somewhere between 16 and 26, 30, to them education is important. And if you just look at again, it's not rocket science, you just look at the facts, the level of education corresponds to the level of income. And the further you go in your career, the bigger that divergence becomes. So if you don't study or qualify for something along the way, you will remain a manual laborer, which is, I'm sure, what we don't want. Because I see the people working in my house, their children are all at school, and the eldest are going to university, and sometimes they have to come in Zula and they have to ask for a loan and to help keep the children at university, but they stay there and they are very successful because the children realize it is my education that is going to take me to the next level. And you don't need to go to university. I mean, you can become a plumber or an electrician, but you have to be able to do something.
And have the skills for it as well.
Yeah. It's a very interesting fact, and it's something that they're very fond of teaching you in economics, is that you would think that a neurosurgeon or a cardiac surgeon, they would be the best paid professionals. Not only best paid medical professionals, of all professionals. Like some auditors and some advocates, and not all lawyers. Trust me, there's so many lawyers back.
I know.
But there are some of them who really they enjoy a good life. But this is the interesting thing: the highest paid, let's call it professional, per hour spent working is a plumber. And the reason is, when your drain is blocked and you need to get somebody to come unblock that drain, you don't quibble about the price. So that picture this: the plumber and his handlanger, they arrive there in a taxi. They've got all these rods and all their tools in a bag, and they got it in the back of the taxi, and the taxi stopped in front of your gate, and he and his handlanger, they fiddle there for maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
If not less.
Screwing these rods together and making this long thing that they push down the pipe, and they release that blockage. Most of the time within 15 minutes, because they know what they do, and they more or less know how the piping system works and where it runs. And then he comes to you, "Meneer, $600. And you pay him that $600 in cash with a smile. Now, where do you get a job that you pay $600 in 15 minutes? And the point is, you must just be able to do something. And you must be able to do it well. And when you're young, you must be able to sacrifice. You can't come off the university and step into the MD's position in a company. You start somewhere.
Lifetime.
So that is perhaps the biggest reason why I say that the next generation, or each new generation in Namibia, will be doing better than the previous generation. But I have to emphasize this. I'm repeating this, and it's very important. You will not know it at that time, and you will not see it in advance. When you look back in 10 or 15 or 20 years, you will see the difference. And this is not hearsay, or this is not what somebody else taught me. This is life's lessons,
Wisdom.
The hard lessons of life is that you often, it's very difficult, and you battle, and you fight colleagues, and you fight your checkbook, and you fight the grocery store, and you fight with your wife, and nothing works out. And then one Friday evening at month end, you walk in your garden with a glass of red wine in your hand, and you enjoy the privilege of living in Namibia, and you think, this is very far from where I was 20 years ago. And back then, you never anticipated that this is where you will be. But that's too philosophical.
Okay, now also before we get into more talk in regards to the bills that has been passed and what this means for Namibia, and also of course economically, let's quickly go for a short break.